Thank you very much. We have Bill Oddie. What can I say? Here you are, Bill.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Said all the things I wanted to say. Great. Don't have to say that. I would add, though, the one consolation when you're slagging off Owen Paterson, and heaven knows I put aside a couple of hours every single day to slag off Owen Paterson. You know, he's a character, he's a funny man. He does come up with some wonderful lines, you know, the moving the goalpost line is going to go down in history as one of the most crass things that a minister has ever said in public. And I'm sure he's very proud of it. And we're talking about the same man who, on the subject of global warming and climate change, he said, oh, well, it'll be nice and hot, which means that the farmers can grow more crops. Yeah, it can only be a joke. So I had pages of things I was going to say, but it's all been entirely preempted by the fact that I got this email, which was passed on by Dominic this morning, and I think this says so much in the words of people who are really, really involved. And I do want to stress that time and time again. I'm afraid this is about people as well. Not afraid. It is about people as well. It's about the morality and the truth and so on and so forth, and the organisation and the knowledge of the two sides. And there's no question that this side, if you like, and all the wonderful NGOs up and down the country, and all the people who have been against the coal and have come together in a wonderful spirit of cooperation, I think that is, in a funny sort of way, it's a bit like war spirit. It's one of the good things that has come out of it. It wasn't necessary, but that's what come out of it. And I hope the public have sort of taken that on board and thought, these people know what they're talking about, they feel strongly, they're not just sort of out-of-control activists or anything like that. They're a terrific organisation. I don't mean any one NGO, I mean the whole flipping lot of you, okay? And as I say, I got this email from some people down in Somerset who are part of the Somerset Cull, so I'm going to read this. They asked me if they would, and it personalises it in many ways, and I think it might bring back to you, I know many of you would have been on some of the watches, but exactly what it was like to be out there. They say, as observers and protesters, we went into the coal zone every night and can testify that the compliance reports released recently by Natural England only scratches the surface of what went on. The industry-led coal was a shambles in so many ways. This is important. This is answering accusations by local MPs. And they say, we are not the scroungers and misfits that some pro-coal MPs like to portray us. How on earth would they know? None of them took up our offer to come and meet us. If they had come, they'd have had a bit of a surprise. We are not for rent. We are not scroungers or layabouts. Instead, we encompass a whole range of professions and interests with a common goal. We are people that are acting according to strongly held principles against the coal that was unjust, unscientific, inhumane and ineffective. And we've got questions for these pro-coal MPs. Why did you mislead Parliament and the public by using false information to justify the killing? Why did you bend the facts to suit a policy you'd already decided upon? Why were you so opposed to vaccinating badgers with scientifically proven beneficial effects? And why were you so hell-bent on killing them? I think those are very important questions, because there aren't any sensible answers to any of those questions. Basically, it was perverse. Most of us want to go to bed at a reasonable hour. We don't want to be out all night registering our objection to people shooting and killing badgers for no good reason. But rest assured, if they did start killing badgers again this year, and that's now, as Mr. Patterson has threatened to do, badgerists, ordinary people, young and old, will oppose them all night long as it takes again. Surely by now, after petitions, public consultations and media attention, the government could see that the coal policy, along with their whole attitude, is successfully alienating many who are typical of Middle England. Very true. We were promised by some of those supporting the coal that free shooting would be humane. It's been proved to fail. Cage trapping is only humane if the operators put welfare considerations first. But who checked this? Nature England's monitoring was totally inadequate. We were told time and again that the pilot coals were to test free shooting and see whether it was effective and safe and humane at removing at least 70% of the badgers in an area. Now the compliance reports from Natural England show that large-scale cage trapping was implied from the very beginning. Another lie. We have been fed lies. These culls were clearly not trials. They were simply an underhand way of starting to kill badgers legally. We know that Wales, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Australia, the States and New Zealand have all got falling rates of BTB. But the only thing that they actually have in common is a regime of regular and effective cattle testing, cattle movement restrictions, and improved biosecurity. We have been, one little bit more. We have been, sorry, there you go. We have been led to believe that our farming community, our farming industry refuses to support these measures wholeheartedly without being offered the carrot, and that phrase has been used by politicians as well, of culling badgers. What you're going to do for us, we'll kill the badgers. Oh, you can't. Yes, we will. Just watch us do it. Well, we believe that this is not a true picture of the farmers' reactions. A number of farmers have signed up to vaccination and the interest is growing. And now we, the general public, demand that you, the government, can you hear, backs badger vaccination as the carrot until cattle vaccination becomes a reality. I think that's incredibly eloquent statement from people who were actually there. I say, I'm sure some of you were there, but I went down myself and, you know, just imagine it being out there in the dark every night, and particularly in the last week of the cull around Gloucestershire, with some very dodgy policing to have to put up with. There were three ministers in that area three MPs in that area, who put out a statement just before the cull was due to end, saying, first of all, get this one, accusing the Badger people of being terrorists. Use that word, terrorists. And not only was that incredibly insulting, it was obviously totally wrong, but it then justified in their eyes saying to the police, we think you should be doing a lot more. And the evidence I've had from a lot of people who were down there and were intermediate between the sides and were simply observing what was going on about police behaviour during that last week in Gloucester particularly, was that some very dodgy stuff going on. Because they were basically being told by the government, go and arrest people. We need more arrests. And that's what they did. There was a whole spate of stop and arrest going on. There was a whole spate of houses being raided in the middle of the night with kids and the family there, 3 or 4 o'clock, bang, 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 it's the police. And they raided those houses, found absolutely nothing incriminating. I know a couple of the people who were raided, and they certainly didn't have anything criminal involved. They had telephones taken off them and so on and so forth, and they were charged. And only a week or two did I hear that a couple of people I particularly knew, and one of them was on the brink of a breakdown, I can tell you, because anybody who's been arrested and have to sit around for several months, including Christmas and New Year, wondering what the hell's going to happen to him or whether he's going to keep his job, you know, somebody must have a bloody good reason for having arrested them in the first place. But they didn't have a bloody good reason. The only reason was the government said, go and get them. And if there are any more rollouts, where you get these bloody phrases from, I don't know. It's such a euphemism, isn't it? Rollout, that's nice. Roll out the barrel, yeah. And if that does happen, as these people say, you can absolutely guarantee there will be a huge amount of opposition. There's talk of 9 or 10 different areas. Now, imagine that happening all over the country. This will be a battle in the countryside, not because we're a bunch of activists who want to go out and have a rumble, but Patterson will be guilty of actually making sure that happens. It would be unthinkable that this is going on all over the country next year, or this year, sorry, the rest of this year, with the friction that will entail, with the amount of policing that it will entail, the amount of money that will be spent on the policing, and the incidents which will occur every now and again. It's only, most of the police I met were fine, they didn't even know where they were there, but there were also an element there that were going to turn nasty, put it that way. And those incidents will have been caused by the government attitude, not by the protesters. So, yeah, I don't have to say it. I'm pleased God may some good come of it, and at the very least, can we get rid of Patterson?